swear that was a funeral pizza. But you could speak at my funeral by the sounds of that. Oh, in the red one, yeah.
Paddy's on the red one. I wonder why.
The man gave me a red microphone and told me it was a red wire because I had a red head.
Well, Paddy, how do you feel? Almost a week into it now. First of all, can I just say, what a cover. One of the best I've ever seen. I'm biased, but it's the people at Gill have done an incredible job. It's just stunning.
It's surreal, to say the least. I said a minute ago, I feel like I'm going to walk into the Long Mile gym that we all came up in and I'm going to turn around and go, boys, why didn't you check out the dream we had last night? Like, that's literally what it feels like. The amount of people that have came here to support me that I've known, they know me. They know who sits here, has sat in many places with them and just being the same person. And I think that's refreshing. People need to see that a little bit more, you know?
You were a bit nervous the night before it went out. I remember I got a voice message. I'm shitting it, Richie. I'm shitting it. What did it feel like seeing your face plastered all over the walls for good reason?
It was it's pretty crazy to be able to kind of like put your life into it. When I got the opportunity to do it, the biggest reason why I wanted to do it was because in 200 years, somebody can pick up a book with my name on it and say, that's a great-great-great-grandfather, and that's a timeline to his life in a way. And everything else doesn't matter. All the beef, all the money or it doesn't matter. At that stage, that's the only thing that matters. And I know that for as long as I'm going to be dead, or as long as I'm going to live, I'm going to be dead for a lot longer than that. So I'm trying to sow the oats for the old death as well, you know. So the kids are all right.
Just to go through the format of what we're going to do tonight. So we've got the book here, we've got some extracts, so we're going to read a couple of sentences without ruining the book, and then Paddy's going to talk about those different events. So I guess we'll start off first, Paddy, back in Jobstown, right? You started it off, so you said, Tala was like its own little country in Dublin, and Jobstown for me was its capital. As much as I love Jobstown, living there was tough and caused me anxiety growing up. Do you think if you grew up anywhere else in Ireland, you'd be the person you are today?
I have so much love for not only for Jobstown, but for council housing estates like that all over the country. And not only even in our country, in England, in Manchester, in up and down, all over the world. The people, like the working class people, are the backbone of a country. And unfortunately, it turns out in a situation where they're led to believe that they're not the backbone. They really are the driving force of a country. So the people that I look around in Jobstown, there's so many powerful people there that have been working all their life and looking after their kids and setting great examples in the community alone. And then unfortunately, sometimes you get 1 or 2% that the media come in and they drag them two strings out, and that's a declaration of what Jobstown is. I've always carried that flag. Alongside the Ireland flag, the Jobstown flag was very close to me. I remember standing in the basketball arena. Owen Roddy will remember this, and I remember saying, like, I'm one of yous. Like, literally, yous could do what I am doing. I'm just one of yous that put my head together, and now here I am. And like after, I was like, that was actually a good line.
You call it a Jobstown passport.
A Jobstownian is what you would call it. And I said, it's not just Jobstown, it's a culture in working class communities, in council housing estates. It's a certain type of person. You could tell a story from my story, and someone in Manchester is going to get this. Somebody in America, somebody in a favela somewhere is going to get this, because we're all human and we're very, very alike. We just don't realise that. And we're led to believe that we're not. So we go and buy loads of stupid things.
I remember you telling me first about Jobstown. I said, I'm also from a working class area. But when you told me some of the stories, there's not too many places like that, to be honest. So can you give us a sprinkle of some of the crazy stuff you saw when you were younger?
There's this one story, and I don't think this made to the book, but there's a time when we were... There's a housing estate across the road from me called Killinarden, right? And they used to throw stones at us, so we throw them back. But we ended up in a situation where we were throwing stones at them and they were throwing stones at us. And someone decided it'd be a great idea to throw a wheel down the back of the hill and see what happens, right? So there's my son turning, close your ears. So we're on the top of the hill and he has this wheel and my mate lobs it down the back of the hill and it goes boom, 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 right onto the road and in the side of a Garda car. Right? And it was like... everybody scarpered. It was like kicking a bush, I'm telling you. me and my friend Sean, we ran one way, and everyone followed him because he was the oldest one. He looked like an alpha, so they were like, right, we can bait him. So they chased the two of us. My ma opened the front door. The two of us went through the front door, and she closed on the car. The guard had jumped over the back gate, right, and chased us. And me and Sean scaled the back wall. We ended up over the other side of the wall, and the guard caught us and beat the shit out of us. So now, listen, getting up from that height, and you're kind of like, are you alright? You alright, yeah. And that's just the way it was. It was a different time. And to be honest, I'd rather it like that rather than like taking it to court and all. Just give a few slaps, let me go.
I remember you said there were a few times in Jobstown where you'd get a beating even if you did nothing wrong. Do you remember one time you said in the book, a lad that was much bigger than you but wanted to beat you up was too big, so he picked you up and brought you up to someone's house, knocked on the door and waited for someone smaller to come out to beat you up?
It's a true story. Yeah, at least he had ethics. I'll give him that. Right, I can't be hitting you, but I'll find someone that can. And that was another story. And the end of that story is crazy because I ended up at a party years later, and this lad just happened to be there, and I had been in the UFC and all, so I was like, oh yeah, you alright? Oh, remember that time, man? And he's actually really sound, turned his life around, but that was a strange situation because he was a lot older than me. I remember he jumped off a bus, and he was walking across the field, and I was behind my house. There was no houses built there at the time, and it was in a field. And I seen him walking towards me, and you know someone's walking towards you. See him walking towards me? And he had a pair of Snickers on, so he was a lot older than me. And he grabbed me, and I remember he grabbed me, and I'm like, what? And he's like, you hit my little brother. I was like, no, I didn't. But I remember being absolutely petrified because all of the people grabbing you, I didn't want him grabbing me. And he leaned down and grabbed me and bit me ear. And I remember just being like, ah! And I could feel like blood. The cauliflower on this side is like a little kind of divot in it now. And he dragged me up the road, made me knock on the door. I had to knock into this house. I'm knocking in, listen, such and such wants you to give me a hiding, and, He wasn't in. Thank fluff. He wasn't in.
We joke about it now, but moments like that, they obviously molded you. Like, it wasn't easy growing up. You can laugh now, but
I know.
It was difficult. And this book gave you an opportunity to revisit parts of your past that you admitted yourself that you'd never looked back at.
There was times where me and you were sitting there and talking, and I went like, it was like, oh, like this. I never really talked to anybody. And Richie's from Cork, so he probably wouldn't be my first county to pick somebody to tell everything to be honest. I'm only messing. No, but I couldn't have done it without you. I really couldn't have, because there was times where you were like, fucking say it, boy. And I was like, right. And I had to be dragged down me, because sometimes you don't want to talk about stuff, and your own body buries it deep down inside you. And it's strange, and it is times like that. I definitely wasn't laughing when that situation was going down when I was a kid. Absolutely not. I was petrified. I remember the heart, like feeling my heart beating in my chest. And then not only that, but when I went back to my house, the idea of sitting there and closing the door, and like feeling safe, you know what I mean? Until next time. but that's what it was like. It really is that what it's like. You got a good kick in the hole every now and again, and no one sued anybody or that back then, and it was raw. It was raw, Richie.
One of the strongest things for me was that Paddy said that, when the road was tough, he could come home and he could go into his bedroom and he could beat the pillow, or he could cry or do whatever. But if his house hadn't been as safe as the road, if his house wasn't as safe at all, then he would have nowhere to hide, similar to a lot of the people he grew up with. And some of those people didn't make it today. They were dealing with all sorts.
Yeah, and that's the true reality of this situation, is some people didn't make it. And when I say didn't make it, some people are dead. Some people lost their mind. Some people went to pat and never came back. Some people kind of lost the idea of their self-worth and stuff like that. And then there's some people that made it, that definitely made it. There's some of my friends, and when I say made it, they now have they have happiness. They have a family. They have they go to work. All of these things that, to me, that's making it. Not making it as in oh, look at them now, or anything like that. Making it is actually having a life, because when we started, we didn't start on the bottom floor. We started in the basement. And anybody that made it out of that situation made it to me. And there's loads of them that, even when I see them now today, they see me. I gave my mate Sean one of the books the other day. Probably the best comment I ever got, right? And if you read the book, you know Sean is in it. Sean was this kid that lived next door to me, was a lot bigger. He was the one that ran through my house with me. Was always had my back. Now, but some days he'd give me a hiding as well. Let's be fair. But he said to me, right, deadly book, I'm going to rip out page 8, I am, and then I'm going to give it to me son. So if you read page 8, you'll probably understand what that means.
With your relationship with your mother as well, you opened up on, which is obviously a hugely difficult thing to do and do it in such a public manner, but what's clear is that although she had her problems and it was difficult for you growing up, you love her dearly, and for you to, I suppose, lay everything out there but still, maintain that relationship with your mother is something that's very, very difficult for anyone to do.
I love my mother more than anything. My mother is the strongest woman I know. My mother taught me how to treat women. My mother taught me most of the stuff in my life, and I only realised that as an older age. But what my mother did do, she raised 2 children that weren't easy in a council housing estate on very little money, and both of them are doing well. I have Chelsea. I couldn't even imagine us my son turning and Seamus, like, I'm pulling my hair out and there's 2 of us. You know what I mean? He's 10 months. Turning's 11. Stop pulling my hair out with him. But the idea is that I couldn't imagine what my mother did. I couldn't imagine doing that. And I am a strong person, and everybody here is a strong person. It's very hard to dedicate your whole life to making sure that your kids make it, and that's exactly what my mother did. And now I'm privileged to be in a situation where I look after her now, and it's great. And even when we were coming down this road with the idea of writing the book, she said to me, like that's your story, and tell us some, you know what I mean? And when it comes up to the idea of the book and things like this, she's more proud of me for doing this, because the fighting thing, like any mother, not that she wasn't proud of me, but she just didn't get it. She didn't understand it. There was times I was going to fight in the Tree Arena, and I'd be like, "Mom, I'm leaving now. I'm going down to the Tree Arena." And she'd be like, "Bye." She'd be upstairs. She wouldn't even come down. "You want to come down and give us a hug?" "I can't. I'm watching Coronation Street." Something, and they'd be like, "Sound, yeah." That's what it's like.
I remember you said you were going to fight, was it Artem Senkov? And you said, "Look, ma, this fella could really hurt me." And she said, "What are you on about?" And you were like, "Oh, no, nothing." And then you headed off and you were driving down to was it in Tala? I think it was in National
the basketball arena,
yeah. And you pulled onto the M50 instead, and you floored it for 100 miles per hour and just needed that time to yourself. And you said you didn't know, were you going to swerve left and just end it all, or were you going to just take a deep breath and turn back up? And you turned around, went straight through there and beat him. And you told me that he looked like a fellow who cut his own hair, and that's always a dangerous
Anybody that knows him will find that extra funny. It's a true story. He was a very dangerous opponent, extremely dangerous opponent. Back in the day, he got a win against Conor very early on, and Conor to me was always the general, and still is. And the idea of being able to fight someone now that had kind of have a win over the general. Now this guy is not he's not a scrapper. Anybody that knows him, he's a tricker. He's like a Bond villain. I've heard somebody calling him. He has this leg lock game. So what he does, he grabs an overhook and he rolls on his leg. And anybody that's a fighter in the room knows the idea of it can end in 30 seconds and nobody knows what happened. And that was the biggest fear that I was having that day. I was training for a guy that could come in and end the fight in 30 seconds and everybody in the room wouldn't even know how it was over. It'd just be like, what happened? You're shy. That's what it would have been like. And this was in my hometown and it was sold out. So with the idea of a guy breaking my leg off, I had all of that in the back of my pocket as well. So I remember saying to my mum, "Listen, mum, if I lose tonight, don't worry about me. I mightn't come home, but I am going to have a broken leg if I come back, and don't panic about it." And anybody, these boys know, if you lose against this guy, and I had made peace with that in my head, the way he goes in with this fight, if you go in, he gets you a leg, let him break it. And I'm telling you, when I was driving there, I was looking at my leg and saying, "Fuck it," you know what I mean? And I was going into that little zone I was and I was most of the people that Tommy and Colin, they would have been fighting on this card as well. So we went through this together. And we're all going through these individual things. And I remember the basketball arena, when you're coming down, there's a pull off the M50 or the basketball arena. And I said, "Do you know what? It's too early. I don't be hanging around all that energy." So I pulled down onto the basketball or onto the M50 and just literally. And I remember whoa. And I don't know what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to hurt myself or anything like that, but I just needed to feel something that was just more scary than what I was driving to face, And now listen, I was getting, I think I got €500 to fight the 2 of these lads in the same contract. So it wasn't about money. Definitely wasn't about money. It was about keeping my leg at that stage, and that was a scary situation. But then, Owen Roddy over here as well, this man is a legend, all right? When I walked into SPG the first time, I remember seeing a poster with him on the door, I remember being like, wow, that's amazing. You could do that. Like, and then I found out that he was very much like me. That he was a council kid. He's from the Mun. You know, he's from Ballymun, and I was like, wait, fucking, you can do this, you know. And he gave me the little spark at that time, but he wouldn't have probably even realised that. And the both of us trained for this camp at the same time. Owen Roddy was going to fight Shannon Googety, who was like a guy who had fought in the UFC, and now this was like, this guy's a UFC fighter, and I was going to fight someone that snaps your leg off, and so we met each other and just boxed snot off each other for about 8 weeks, like, and there's a great video of it in 10,000 hours there is, and like, I have a Contact Fighters Only t-shirt that I robbed off you, Dean. Where's it? Oh yeah, I still have that t-shirt, by the way. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Dean, yeah. You know, the white one? I robbed that. So, you know, where's that t-shirt gone? Till now. And it's covered in blood, it is. My nose is bleeding. Your nose is definitely bleeding. Yeah. When you reverse into the car park at the gym, his nose starts bleeding. Stop. It's the truth, but the two of us have the nose to tell the tale today, don't we? We were only saying that. But this was an incredible moment, and me and Roddy went in, and not only that we did the business. We sold it out. I got the win. I stood there, didn't even go backstage, waiting for Roddy. My leg was mangled. Roddy came out. There's a great story on the No Shame podcast about where Roddy's standing on the stage and his mate coming up to him and all. He's like, fuck up, I'm going to a fight. It's there, you should check it out. But, and we did the business. And we stood there, and there's a great picture of us in the book where the two of us are like, blood over us, and we're just, like, we're not doing it for money. Like, it was the GAA at that time, you know, and it was incredible because that true passion shone through, you know. It was amazing.
You were under pressure throughout that camp because of the free t-shirt and a month's gym membership. Was it for the leg lock in you?
Yeah. Do you remember this? Yeah. So what happened was that there was a month's membership put on my head. That somebody submitted me with a footlock. They got a 3 months membership and a t-shirt. I was like, holy shit. All right. So it got dangerous quick. You know what I mean? It told for people like, yeah, you're going to do well to like, t-shirt, month's membership. You might make it to the fight, Paddy. But it was one of them situations, and it was actually a guy named Pavel that had the footlocks at the time. Pavel, do you remember Pavel? Pavel was this Polish guy. He actually went on to save somebody in a garage when it was getting robbed one day. Someone tried to rob the garage, and Pavel jumped through like a hero, wrestled the guy, strangled him, and all. It was in the newspaper. It was absolutely amazing. My claim to fame is Pavel, right? Because he had the footlocks, and I knew if he didn't get me, nobody was getting me. I remember even Connor grabbing me one time, and Connor wouldn't be a footlocker, like, you know what I mean? And he tried to take my ankle off. And I don't even think he needed the month's membership. It was just a challenge. There's a challenge on that foot, and I'm having it. You know what I mean? And that was it. It was a mad moment.
So to fast forward, The Ultimate Fighter was probably the next big chapter in your career. Tell us about that. You were sitting in a gaff one night, loads of cans. The
boys are here tonight anyway. They're just Robin, Adam. Yeah. Were you there that night? Apparently, she doesn't know. I wasn't supposed to be there. Sorry, Mairead. But we were sitting there, and we're literally just a UFC night, and there was exactly everything going on that you would expect to be going on, and all of a sudden Dana White pops up on the telly, and he turns around and goes, we're going to do a 135-pound division. Ronda Rousey's going to be the coach, and I'm sitting there going, holy shit, I've been waiting for this. You know, there was no 135-pound division when we were chasing the UFC gold. I was actually chasing the WEC at the time, which would have been called, which was like not the UFC. So to me, the dream was to get to the UFC, and I would have fought 145 pounds at that time if I had to, because I was fighting at bantamweight, and I never fought in flyweight until I got to the UFC. Didn't even know I could make it when I signed the contract, but I signed the contract. When we got to this situation, I'm lost again. Where'd I go? Got lost.
You were going over, you were offered a 3-man Grand Prix.
Oh yeah, I was standing in the airport and I got offered the Cage Warriors title I did. And like, it was like murderer's row on it. You know what I mean? I was going to have to go through like bedlam again to get a Cage Warriors title. And it wasn't going to be life-changing money, and the belt was actually going to hinder me, to be honest. And I was very lucky to have Cottle, who was a world champion at Cage Warriors, Chris, and Conor was a double world. So I kind of knew the idea. I was looking at the belts and I was like, but they're not equal as what we need. Like, I need to provide for my family. I have a kid, and I'm standing in the airport, and John rang me and said, sign the contract. And I was like, I don't really want to sign the contract, to be honest. And he was like, listen, sign the contract. We'll sort it all out. Sign the contract. And I said, nah, listen, I can't do that. And I kind of hung up the phone. And I didn't sign the contract. And then when we got to the Ultimate Fighter, they sit you in a room and they turn around and go to you, right, anybody that's under contract, put your hands up. And all these guys are going, can you please leave the room? And I was like, whoa. Like that, I would have landed in contract and it would have made no sense. I was at the paying 1,500 quid or something like this to get this opportunity. It popped up at the time, as I said, we were sitting in a room. Dana White came on the telly. What I was chasing hadn't even existed yet. It was a 135-pound division, and then they brought in the flyweight division. And when he mentioned that there was going to be an Ultimate Fighter, I just knew I was going to be on it. I am going to that, and they mixed it. So it was Ronda Rousey and Kat Sangago or whatever her name is. But it was supposed to be Misha Tate at the time, but she didn't make it. So, yeah, that was mental. So me and me mate Adam, what was that like, Adam? You know what I mean? I think Robin actually gave us the credit. You didn't alone for it, did you? I think that's the truth, like. Really is. And the friends are sitting here now on a book launch. And to me, that's what your mates are about, you know? And cheers, Robin, I'll get that back to you, yeah? No, yes, I'll pay it back. But me and Adam ended up packing our bags and heading over, and it was pretty crazy because at the time I was leaving turning, and I remember like signing these contracts and I'm heading off for like maybe 6 weeks, maybe not 6 weeks. I was kind of the first person to be hitting that road. No one had gone to the Ultimate Fighter except Paul McVeigh back in the day, and we were like, right, get some information. That's how it was back in the day. Send out a pigeon. And we were trying to get the information on what the Ultimate Fighter was, but what happens is that you go over, you do the trials, we're in a room, there's 380 people there or something, and there's like 16 male spots. I'm the only Irish man there. So it was a little bit overwhelming, wasn't it, Adam? But Adam kept me going. There's lads walking around with like full Viking gear on and all, and like it's weird. It's not, you know, it's not. The trials for it are like a strange place to be, especially for the whole day. So you're there for 18 hours, and literally 18 hours we were there all day, and it was draining. And you're in a process like the X Factor if you must. You know, it's a production team telling you what to do. It's not a nice process, it really is, and especially for my one because it was the first time females, I think, were going to be introduced to it as well. So there was a massive, like, the void in the room if you must, and it was like loads of this energy and all. And anyway, we got picked for it.
Remember the paperwork?
Yeah, right, the paperwork. That was when we went back over. So what happened is Adam flew home, I stayed in Vegas, done me medicals, went home to Ireland, and then what they do is they ask you to say, right, are you going back? And you have to wait and get the answer. So we got the answer. I got picked, so I was going to be on the Ultimate Fighter. So it was massive to me. It was this, do you remember that, Tommy? Do you remember we were rolling around, actually probably a day or two before it, and I was telling you, my leg is just going numb. I only remember back to it now because I was like, I'd see it now. I'd see it as a coach now what the injury was, and it was in the gym before I'd even left. So when we left, you go over, and a lad met me at like a garage, and I was like, yeah, you Paddy Holohan? I was like, yeah. And he brings me over to Palace Station, and you have to stay in this room. We had to stay in this room for 4 days, right? Now some people are like, you're staying out. It was the worst thing ever. I wasn't able to leave the hotel room. You've done it as well, Carl, haven't you? 2 days, 2 weeks. We allowed to leave the room. Yeah, see, you sussed it because you sussed it with the swim pool and going to the gym or something, didn't you? I didn't leave. Like, I'm in a room for 4 days, right, eating off a menu in a hotel. The lad that was coming up to me like at the door, giving me food. All right, mate, have a conversation here. Come here. You know what I mean? What's the score of the man? Sitting there watching American TV, all the advertisements about like the presidents and all, and there was an election on, and it was like torture. That's what it was like. And then eventually they bring you down to a room and they put you all together and they say you're fighting that lad, and then they send you back to your room, and then a bus comes and collects you and brings you to fight that lad. You get thrown into this big huge kind of like factory place, and now you're fighting somebody. It's a mad situation. It's not easy. It's not an easy situation. I ended up drawing a guy, a Canadian lad. He was 30 in wrestling, and they were all pins. And he was 9-0 in MMA, and they were all decisions. I was like, beautiful. That's exactly what I need to look perfect. You know, I need somebody coming here trying to take my head off so we can go for it. And like Artem knows as well, you've been on that. Artem had 2 knockouts on the show, and like it's a hard life. You know what I mean? And that was at that time, that was my way to change my life. Now, the fight didn't go my way. I lost, and guess what happens? Bye now. And all of that goes to waste, and you go home and you get nothing. You don't get paid, you don't get money, you just go back to where you were, and that's it. And
You
it's
couldn't
not-
tell people about the result either.
Yeah, that's another. So you can't tell. You're in like a confidential kind of thing, and it just didn't go well for me at that time. And it was a time in my life where I really needed it to go well. Now, but one thing that did go well out of it, I ran around to Dana White after I lost, and I said, "Listen, Dana, when you come back to Dublin, 125, I'm your man. Make us a promise." And he said, "Yeah," and he shook my hand, and he's a man of his word.